there or the event coordinators, every year they do a annual Black Comic Book Festival. And it's like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, because really, if you, when you don't really think about it, but like there's so many Black people, Black and brown and everything in between, making art, making comics, making games. They even had a game developer conference in there too. It was game developers of color. And like, it was just such a wonderful thing to be enveloped in. And it's like, oh, this is my people. This is people that look like me. You know what I mean? Like making the stuff that I like.
Yep. That's so important to have in an industry, right? Representation. And like you said, seeing somebody create something and feeling like you are a part of what they're creating, like seeing yourself within the game or movie or book or comic book or anything like that. And I think a lot of times, you know, people like us who might have grown up without that kind of influence, you know, we really missed out on like being able to think like, hey, I can be a part of this space, you know, because if you don't see that kind of stuff enough, then you don't realize that you can be a part of it, which is why I think inclusion is such an important topic, you know. So making sure that those things exist and meeting other content creators, you know, and realizing that there are people out there who are creating this content. Maybe they're not as visible because, you know, they don't have the means, but like, you know, I hope that one day, you know, like things like that can be really invested in so that it can have that same visibility as maybe, you know, major movie and, you know, major movie publishing houses and things like that can have the same kind of exposure. So that's really important.
Of the arts. There's always somebody saying this is wrong, this is right. How do you feel about drawing from reference? Do you use reference when you make some of your pieces?
Honestly, I usually don't, right? But I don't have a problem with it. I'll tell you why I don't, because I'm a weirdo. But I've always had this, I need to learn how to do it on my own thing, right? Which got me in this habit of not using reference. But that's completely not what people should necessarily do. It's okay to use reference. It's not okay to copy. But use a reference. References give you inspiration. That's all it is. It's inspiring you. Okay, this person is in this type of pose. How would that help embellish or make the character I'm drawing or the person I'm creating look that much better? It's literally there for that purpose. You're not gonna, example, like let's say you want to draw a beautiful Black woman, and you might say, what features am I going to use that are not going to look identical to ones I've used before? Because people, we tend to get comfortable in a certain style. I'm definitely comfortable in my style.
Yeah,
and
same.
And you can draw things that look very similar. So sometimes getting out of that and looking at other things and using that as a reference will help you realize certain features you may have missed. You know, where the cheekbones may raise on a certain face, the chin may be a little lower, the way the slope of the jaw is, different things like that. So yeah, reference is good. I have no.
With your artwork and the stories you want to tell, have you evolved from when you were drawing back in the day until now? Like, what's changed for you significantly in that way?
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, I remember years ago, I used to have a story called DSX that was like my ode to the post-apocalyptic genre. And it was my way, it was like kind of like my Fist of the North Star. You had one lone Black man in the wastelands who had special abilities and stuff and everything. And, you know, I even did a little animation for it, and I put out 2 books for it. It was cool for what it was, but it was, as I got older, I found myself getting tired of trying to tell these stories that I felt that weren't, they came from here, but at the same time, it was like, I want to do like what, you know, this character in this other anime did, but I want to do it my way and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. But as I started, you know, learning more about writing, about creative writing and just art in general, I just wanted to do something a lot different that was outside of that. And that's how I came up with Bounce. I took a situation that I already knew about, working as a bouncer for about, you know, 10, 12 years in the city. These are stories only I can tell, you know, and
I have a good answer.
I'm sure your answer will be amazing.
I actually did. I was like, okay, those 70 questions. I did my homework. Okay, so basically, what is liberating, and there's a couple of angles I'm going to tell you about. Okay, one of the most liberating things about animation is animation doesn't require a lighting crew or a set or even actors if you don't have dialogue. That is, if you can draw and you have access to software or an app, of which there are many, especially apps on tablet that are free or low cost, sky's the limit. So like you literally like could, it's so liberating because you can literally just with an iPad or even like with an app on your phone, you can create a project. So I always tell this story, and I tell this story. I just told this story the other day, and I told this story to a bunch of my students. I said, "Well, professor, like, how do I do this? Like, I'm never going to be able to make a film. I'm never going to be able to get famous. I don't have the best software. I don't have the best computer." I said, "Okay, I got to tell you a story. A friend of mine, Dave Levy, he's used to be president of ASIFA. Now he's out on the West Coast doing stuff for Disney and God knows. So he's amazing. Just put out a book. He's an amazing guy. He literally took out his iPhone, and this is when like iPhones first got invented or something, and he had a drawing app where you just draw with your finger.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, as a Black woman in the animation industry and just in the art world as a whole, and I know we've talked about where we've come and where we are now, what are some things that you would like to see specifically change in the future for us, for the kids?
What I would like to see change for the future, it just really goes back to like my own personal mission statement would be like access, to resources and to opportunities. I think Viola Davis, once said that in one of her speeches, that that's the only thing that really sets us apart is we don't have the access to opportunities. So just for a little bit of story time, when I was in high school and I was in the art program in high school here in Queens, my mom was like, you need to go ask your art teacher about some like summer art programs or something that the city offers, like free programs, because she was like, you better find a free program to go to. And I went to my teacher and she opened a drawer in her desk and it had like all these flyers and stuff of art programs throughout New York City. And she just didn't share them with us. This was like in the spring.
Wow.
And she was like, well, if you want like your classmates to know about this, you can just make photocopies and give it to them yourself. And I was like, you're the whole teacher. Like, why are you being like this?